Raina Troy Hotline.
Alicia, Michael, what's going on?
We know you have takes. We have takes.
I'm actually surprised that your Rant Line, Rave Line, whatever, isn't completely full.
Why can't we just win a game?
Can I blame Michael Castillo for this?
Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
Could I put on a zebra shirt and just go out there?
Scratch, claw, up against the wall.
Can't explain it, what I'm feeling right now, guys.
I can't believe it.
Let's open up that Rave Line! Woohoo! Oh, I can't believe USC is 7-5 again. Oh no!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Retro Radio, episode 574. Coming to you on Monday, November 18th. We're going to look back at USC's 28-20 win over the Nebraska Cornhuskers at the Coliseum. Play some over-under, look back at the over-under, talk about some big recruiting news from the Trojans, and so much more. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Reign of Troy. Follow us on Blue Sky at Reign of Troy. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Reign of Troy. Email address, reignoftroy@fanside.com. And our phone number, 818-643-7227. Second Woods Bruin Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joined along with my co-host here in the Reign of Troy studio in Los Angeles. Across the room from me, Alicia D'Artola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We mentioned Blue Sky before. While we were doing this, I told you that I was posting the link to Blue Sky, the YouTube link. And I said, okay, I just blooted. You're like, what?
I
blooted. Not a fan.
Couldn't be less of a fan, to be quite honest.
So I'll just go with, I posted on Blue Sky.
Just say you tweeted. You tweeted on Blue Sky. Tweet is a universal. Tweet is now Kleenex.
No, I agree with you. But when I say I tweeted, people think that you're talking about Twitter.
Well, you tweeted on Blue Sky.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Blooted, though. I'm going to make blooted a thing. I will make blooted a thing.
Good luck with that.
Marcelo in chat says there's already a massive debate on what Blue Sky posts are called. In West Texas, Mike says you can't tweet on Blue Sky. Yeah. See, there's you can go either way.
But they're technically not tweets on Twitter anymore either.
There'll always be tweets on Twitter.
Marcelo says people call them skeets. And as a millennial, no. I can't, because I associate that word with no.
Yeah, with the window and the wall. Yeah. Anyways, all right. A lot of stuff to get to in this episode. Alicia, I think we just got to jump right on into it. We got to get to the news, shall we? Do I not have? I don't have the news chime on the thing anymore.
Why not?
Because I took it off for a dumb reason.
All right, here I go. Do do do. I think I'm off key.
I don't know what you're doing, but sure.
The horn, it's like a bo bo, and then there's a little chime like something like that. No?
All right, we're rolling with it. All right, Alicia, let's talk about the news. SC has some brutal news with quarterbacks of the future. Junior Lewis is decommitted. It's implied that he could be flipping to Colorado with Deion Sanders. He's been linked to taking other visits and whatnot. He had been committed to the Trojans for 15 months, way back in August 2023. He's from Georgia, number 34 in the 24 Sports composite. And Alicia, this is a big loss for the Trojans. You know, he's the face of your recruiting class.
Yeah, he was the face of the recruiting class, but it had been months of chatter of flip watch, of decommitment watch for Juju Lewis.
Yeah.
There was chatter that USC wanted him to shut down his recruitment, and he did not, and he kept scheduling visits and the like. So I don't think this is a huge surprise, but anytime you lose a 5-star quarterback, that's definitely not a great feeling. But weirdly, I think this might be the least of all of the 5 stars that have ever decommitted from USC.
Yeah.
This decommitment produced the least amount of angst.
Did it?
In all my years of following USC recruiting. Mainly because, like, 20 minutes before Juju Lewis made it official that he was decommitting.
I mean, there had been rumors.
Happened. Yeah, there had been rumors.
Yeah.
But then, over the weekend, USC got a commitment from 5-star quarterback Hassan Longstreet. Like, 20 minutes before Juju Lewis decommitted. So no one gave a crap about Juju Lewis decommitting.
Yeah. Condolences to Eric Sondheimer's Twitter account. Hassan Longstreet out of Centennial. 5-star quarterback. If you look at the 24/7 Sports Composite, which we like to do because it's a composite, it's easier to take into account more things. SC upgraded. Went from the number 34 overall recruit in the 24/7 Sports Composite in Juju Lewis to the number 33 overall recruit in Longstreet. But Longstreet out of Corona Centennial, that's one of your pipelines that you want. If you could pick 5 pipelines for SC, it would be Mater Dei, Bosco, Poly, Corona Centennial, and Shirley Narbonne, right?
Well, it'd probably be Sarah, but that's fine too.
Jay Sarah?
Junipero Sarah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Hassan Longstreet. If you're going to replace Juju Lewis, this is the guy to get, and he's local, so that checks all the boxes from everybody wanting SC to go local, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. There's just been so much talk about USC not taking care of the local pipelines well enough, and not putting in either enough effort or enough emphasis on bringing in local Southern California guys and letting them leave. And, you know, the debate can go back and forth. I think you and I have discussed that no one cares if you're not recruiting locally if your recruiting class is, you know, ranked in the top 10 either way with your out-of-state guys. The issue for USC is that their recruiting class was not ranked super highly, and they were not bringing in the local recruits.
And they're not winning.
Which is obviously the biggest deal. But at a time when the local recruits are definitely an emphasis in terms of the talking points around USC, bringing in Hassan Longstreet, a local kid who, you know, USC has been a fixture in his life growing up in terms of like football programs to be thinking about, and getting him is huge, because you had to get a big time quarterback in this class, whether it was going to be Juju Lewis or Hassan Longstreet or somebody else. It needed to be somebody. Right. And I think if you're talking about like the ideal options, Hassan Longstreet is a really ideal option. I mean, the downside of losing Juju Lewis is you lose his Carrollton teammate, Shamar Arnaud, the cornerback, who also decommitted like 3 or 4 days ago, I think before the weekend, which was probably, just another sign that the Lewis decommitment was coming. But in the end, that was like a make weight kind of commitment. So you're going to look at Hassan Longstreet hopefully being a gem for other guys to come in and want to join this class as well. USC's classes with Longstreet is ranked 13th in the composite and in the 24/7 overall. So it's just a big deal too, because Longstreet, I think it's funny that Greg Biggins, his evaluation on 24/7 Sports, the comp to Longstreet is Spencer Radler. So like the comp there is pretty obvious to a Lincoln Riley quarterback. And Longstreet is credited with having a huge arm, quick release, accurate. Obviously needs to improve his accuracy, but seems to be a likely a good fit for the program.
Right.
And frankly, I mean, all recruiting ills are wiped away by just like coming to USC and playing well or whatever. But I just think back to like Iman Marshall's, throwing you back and forth and whatever, like that got annoying. There've been a lot of other longtime commits or longtime targets for USC where the whiplash of back and forth it gets to a point where it's like just make your damn decision. And if it's going to be to not come to USC, then just do that and stop, jerking us around. And it felt like Juju Lewis had like crossed that line 3 or 4 months ago. So there's I think the locality of Hassan Longstreet, the scheme fit, obviously, the talent level, and also just the no longer having to deal with the history of is he going to go to Colorado? Is he going to visit Indiana? Is he going to go to Georgia? Whatever it is, not having that kind of drama in the past makes Hassan Longstreet feel like even more of a breath of fresh air on the recruiting trail. So
yeah,
big get. Will remain to be seen what his timeline at USC is, because obviously all the quarterback timelines right now are still very up in the air because we don't know what next year's quarterback situation holds.
That's going to be interesting because there's a world in which Mailbag is the guy next year. There's a world in which Lincoln Riley needs to go into the portal and go get somebody who is going to be available in the portal. And I can't think of someone off the tippy top of my head immediately for that. But, this year's version of Cam Ward or Will Howard, right? Or Caleb Williams, right? Or there's the other option, which is going all in on Longstreet. And I don't think having Longstreet and then Mailbag as the backup option, or even you just go with those two with the idea of like one of these two guys will be the guy. I don't think that would be a terrible plan. The problem is you can't get that wrong if you're Lincoln Riley when everyone thinks that you got the Miller Moss Mailbag thing wrong at the moment, right?
Well, the issue, I mean, honestly, the issue this year is that Malachi Nelson didn't work out. Because if Malachi Nelson lives up to the sort of billing, then there is no quarterback controversy. There is no Jaden Mailbag issue. It's Malachi Nelson's taking over this year.
Right.
The thing, and that's what my ideal at this point would be, not knowing, like you said, we don't know what quarterbacks are going to be in the portal, what that's going to look like. If there is an elite level quarterback out there available to transfer in, you obviously need to look that way. But you still get 2 more games, hopefully 3 more games of getting a look at Jaden Mailbag, seeing what he's about. The ideal for me would be Jaden Mailbag balls out these next 3 games, hopefully 3. He goes around and comes back as a returning starter for 2025. Longstreet comes and does a redshirt season, and then Mailbag as a junior possibly has a good enough year that he goes to the NFL. I don't know if he what his sort of NFL future holds, but like my ideal. And it's very difficult to do this at this stage because of NIL and recruiting and transferring and all this kind of stuff. But like, if this was 6-7 years ago, we would be talking about how this is perfect because Jaden Mailbag comes back. He plays at least his junior year, if not his senior year. So 2025, maybe 2026. If he comes back for a senior year, 2026, then that gives Longstreet 2 years to settle in, learn the offense, get ready to go. And then ideally, the ideal time for one of these quarterbacks to start after a couple of years of development would be as a redshirt sophomore. Your redshirt freshman I can work with, but like redshirt sophomore is my ideal time for a quarterback to get in there and have enough time to develop, but also be young enough that they get real like game plan. So like you could have a situation where if everybody is game, your timing could be perfect. Mayava for either the next 1 or 2 years, then Longstreet comes in, and as Anthony Green points out, Lions. I have Walker Lyons in my head right now, and I am blanking on his name. Ryder Lyons from Folsom is the big quarterback prospect.
Hold on. They're not related, right? Walker and Ryder, like that. Those sound like names that like thematic siblings, right?
That would be pretty freaking awesome. But yeah, so like Ryder Lyons, obviously USC wants him, so you could end up in a situation where you have your succession plan for the next 3 quarterbacks in place. Now, am I delusional enough to think that any team nationally, that their quarterback succession plan at this point can even be written in pencil, let alone locked in stone?
Right.
I am certainly not projecting that far out. I barely know what USC's quarterback situation is going to be for 2025, let alone 2027 or 2028. But
they are brothers, by the way.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That would be even more fun to.
Which I don't mean to put you off track here, but like I've not looked into recruiting that far ahead.
Because there's literally no point.
To be honest with you, so like, does that mean that he's taking a mission?
That's the question.
Does that help though? If he let's say that he signs in the class of 2026, you're able to then get Longstreet 25, 26, 27. Lyons comes in 28 as a 20-year-old freshman. There you go.
And again, the succession plan on paper, potentially, I can see it happening.
Yeah.
But as Gil says in the chat, Longstreet waiting 2 years to start.
Yeah. Well,
at this point, I don't.
The plan never works.
No. It never works, and you never know which way the wind is going to blow as far as these guys go. But
right.
But I think that suffice it to say that there's been a lot of doom and gloom around USC and recruiting and all that kind of stuff, and I think there's a lot of valid criticism of USC's recruiting, locally, nationally, everything recruiting level across the board. But the big thing, knowing that Lincoln Riley is not going anywhere, the big thing that I think USC fans can cling to in terms of hope and positivity and optimism is it simply remains a fact that Lincoln Riley will have very good options for quarterbacks most years.
Yeah.
And I think this year,
I think you can chalk it up to this year being the mistake of him not going on a transfer guy.
Yeah, and I'm also
and like you said, I think it part of that is because Malachi wasn't the guy.
Part of that was because Malachi wasn't the guy. Part of that was because USC's NIL situation has still been impossible to sort of sort out.
Yeah.
Part of that has been potentially a philosophical resistance towards paying out big NIL to any of those quarterbacks, which again, I think philosophically USC needs to just get over that and see what is working for everybody else nationally, which is just start giving guys a bag. But I mean, at the same time, let's be real. One thing we neglected to mention for those who don't know at home, Hassan Longstreet was committed to Texas A&M. When he committed to USC, it wasn't just a commit, it was a flip from Texas A&M. Texas A&M, who notably is a program that gives players the bag, So we have to assume that this commitment, this flip, also comes with some significant NIL investment that USC is giving Longstreet. So potentially a sign that the NIL dollars are
Right.
there to be invested if he if a guy is either worth it or if USC really wants him bad enough. I mean, that's the big question right now about USC recruiting. They had over the weekend the visitors. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking again. Jakeem Stewart. Is it Jakeem? Why am I saying that right?
Alicia, I got two. I can't help but focus on two questions for you here. Number one, if you were the Lyons family and you had Walker Lyons and Ryder Lyons, what would the third brother be named for you? Because I got two options: Scooter or Coaster. Scooter Lyons, Coaster Lyons.
I don't like Coaster.
Jogger Lyons doesn't really work.
I like Scooter.
Runner Lyons.
I like Skipper.
All right, that works.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question was, obviously, I think it's less of a question and more of a comment. I think it is personally very problematic for USC that Boulevard is no longer something that exists, because Boulevard being able to announce that USC got Longstreet would have been gold. That's a brilliant thing to put to Blute and put on Blue Sky. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about SC and Nebraska. SC wins 28-20. We were talking about it before in our preview. We usually talk about this in the over-under segment, but I want to get to it now. The FEI projection was 30-22, SC by 8. You said 27-20. I said 24-20. The answer was 28-20. Am I out of line to say that, like, FEI, you and me, like, we were all, like, right there, right? Like, the last drive, if SC doesn't score a touchdown, they get a field goal instead. SC wins 24-20. You had 27-20, but it was 28-20 at the end. And FEI had the exact 8 points. Everybody's in the right thing, which means SC might be, like, we talk about the one play nature of USC football and how frustrating it is. But my God, does it not make SC games predictable? They've never been this predictable ever.
This is predictable and unpredictable because the one possession game situation is always, it literally could go either way. But the crazy thing continues to be that, so those predicted numbers, those predictable numbers, like the margins are usually not perfectly on. Like, they're a guideline. Like, they're like the Vegas spread, they're trying to get it, like, accurate, but more often than not, you see an 8-point spread and the team that wins by, 20, whatever it is, or lose or whatever, all those kinds of things where, at least from a USC perspective, that's been the way it's been from my memory. This team being so spot on with the 20-point defense and the 28-point offense, it's strange. And it just always seems to be within 3 points on either end.
Yeah.
So,
and we're gonna get to over under. I am so excited about over under because I don't think we've ever been this good.
We have been so on point with our over unders.
But Alicia, this week, almost every one of them was within one.
Yeah,
it was insane. So,
which doesn't help, like, my record on this. I am the USC of this season.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! We'll get to that.
Just to stay on advanced metrics for one second. I would also still like to point out the silliness that is USC ranking 16th in FPI, Football Power Index,
and 16th in FEI too.
Yes, ahead of LSU, ahead of Colorado, ahead of Boise State, ahead of BYU. Well ahead of BYU. Like all of these things, USC is statistically. This is fun. Okay, the top 25 teams in FPI, the top 25 rated teams in FPI, all but one of them has a 100% chance to have six wins because they all have 6 wins. Only one of them doesn't. It's USC. Like, it's just...
So, FEI has strength of schedule stuff. There's ALS, which is not the disease. The number of losses an average team would expect to lose against the schedule that they have. The average team with SC's schedule would expect to lose 7.13 games thus far. SC's lost 5. And I think like this is a very interesting thing because SC is above average based on who they've played. They have performed better than the average team. Obviously, you want SC to be better than the average team. So, low bar. But it is incredible that, like, SC's played so many one-play games. I think the context for what SC is significantly different if they just beat Maryland and beat Minnesota.
Yes.
You win those 2 games, you're 7-3.
Much more conventional USC season, by the way.
Yes, and you're not changing a lot, right? Like, you're not going through and changing all of the other games. You're just changing those 2 games, or even if it was just Maryland and UW, whatever it is, right? And all of a sudden, SC is 7-3. Look like they maybe could win 9 games. More likely 8-4 or whatever. And it would make a lot more sense.
USC being in the end game of the season and the question being, will they be 9-3 or 8-4 is classic standard post Pete Carroll USC.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it would match the eye test way more than the 5-5. But again, this is SC's problem for playing with fire so much because you're going to get burned. And luckily for SC against Nebraska, boy, they were playing with fire a ton, but SC got the bounces to go their way.
Both teams were playing with fire.
Yes, but this was the first time that SC got just about every single bounce to go their way, with the exception of the fumble that Jaden Mayama had. The pick 6 was obviously there was no weird bounce about the pick 6. It was bad throw, great play by Sierra Wright, right? But the fumble goes Nebraska's way, but that happens, right? But every other thing that needed to go SC's way did. Two really egregious PI calls not called. One of them in the end zone, the other one in the shadow of the end zone right there.
I have a little bit of a hot take about that last PI call.
I think the last PI is 1,000% PI. If the
PI.
uniforms were different, you'd be on here fuming.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely PI.
Yeah.
But that one compared to the other bad one.
They're both bad.
That one.
They're both PI.
Yes, they're both PI. That isn't called because Big Ten refs don't call PI.
They don't call PI.
As USC has learned. But the last one, to me, that one's more, it's PI in by the technical point, but in reality, that ball was getting picked. Whether the receiver was held onto or not. I think that ball
I tend to agree, given how it's double coverage that, and it's very much double coverage in the sense of it's not just another guy around. It was pure double coverage.
It's either getting picked or it's getting knocked down. It's not a completed touchdown if there's not, if you take away the jersey grab. I'm not, again, the refs have been terrible all year. They've been not calling any of these things. And one of the things we talk about with the refs is, on the only plus side is that usually across a season, for every call that screws you over, you get one that doesn't, or that screws the other team over. To
the Big Ten's credit, they've been consistent.
They've been consistent, which is simply not calling that call ever.
That's all you can ask for.
Yes, Which is,
but
again,
like they've been just consistently like their view of like PI is insane. You practically need to murder somebody out there to get the PI call.
Yeah, but like knowing that now is helpful to USC's receivers and their DBs because now they know like this is or isn't what's going to be called. But either way, I mean, aside from all of that, I was rewatching the game and the first half, we talked about this on the CarCast, but like it was even more present for me that Jaden Mayava got extremely lucky on two throws that could have easily and should have probably been picked. The completion to Deuce Robinson downfield, the more I watch that play, as fun as that kind of play is, like that is a no-no. that is a red today they're watching tape and Lincoln Riley should be pointing to Jaden Mayava and say, do not ever do that again. No, you hit Walker Lyons underneath. He was open. You do the shorter thing and dump it off, whatever, or throw it away. Do not throw that pass because it should have been like that's intercepted most of the time. Deuce makes an amazing play. The DB isn't aware of what's going on, and thus you get a completion. Then the Kyron Hudson touchdown, which is luck to the max because of the bouncies.
It's double luck.
But it's like triple luck because the DB should intercept that. He lets the ball just fly through his hands, just straight up fly through his hands.
It's literally the video game.
Yes. Oh, yes, literally the video game. And so like those were very lucky plays. Now, I'm not saying this to bag on Jaden Mayava because I think my biggest observation,
you need luck to go your way.
My biggest observation on the Jaden Mayava of it all is that I thought in the first half, either it was jitters or just brushing off the cobwebs or getting, finding a groove or whatever. I thought the first half was really shaky from him. But in the second half, with the exception of the fumble, which is simply not a Jaden Mayava turnover, but like the class of quarterback that Jaden Mayava is.
It was very dark.
You simply accept that kind of fumble will be happening every once in a while. It's just like the class of quarterback that Brett Favre was. You just sort of simply accept that he will try to force a ball into too tight of a window and it will get picked. And you just sort of accept that this is just who he is. You have to take that with in order for all the good stuff, you have to sort of accept that will occasionally happen. So I'm not. I mean, obviously, don't fumble the ball, but like that one's not a big red flag to me.
It's Reggie Bush fumbling in the Fresno State game.
Yeah,
no one ever remembers.
Yeah, but aside from that moment in the second half, I thought that Mayava looked extremely comfortable. He
didn't let
competent.
It tank his day.
No, he was making really good decisions. He was throwing the ball well. He was the run game element that he was bringing was excellent, but more than anything, everything looked calmer. Everything looked more in control in a way that the first half felt very out of control. And what really and the out of controlness that USC had in the first half, which was not just Mayava, there was other things, the penalties and all this kind of stuff, really could have buried USC. But in the second half, the level of control that USC was able to exhibit, that is really what leads to the victory and what gives me hope that the Mayava that we are more likely to see going forward is probably something closer to the second half Mayava than the first half Mayava, which very much felt like this student hasn't played live football in a year. And
so, I think the reality is probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, probably.
But like, what I liked about the second half was I thought that the game plan was just better for him because the first half I understand early on in the game, a couple of deep shots, show that you got it in the arsenal, right? That makes sense. Didn't hit him, but whatever. I thought in the second half there were more plays that were just not a lot of vertical passes in the second half. Not a lot of mid-range passes even. There were a lot of the short stuff. Lincoln Riley really made it simpler for Jaden Mayava in the second half. You look at his longest completions in the second half. He had a 48-yard touchdown to Deuce Robinson, which was
more of an intermediate.
It's an intermediate play, but like I loved how that was how Deuce was sort of schemed open there. I thought it was great. You have the 23-yard screen to Zachariah Branch, and then you have
a tunnel, one of those tunnel screens that we've been waiting to work.
Yeah.
For Branch, and that what that play was that's exactly the play you want Zachariah Branch having the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and then there is the 21-yard pass on 3rd and 6 to Kyron Hudson, which was basically a lobbed up corner route. But that was the only very aggressive, like one of the few very aggressive pass plays in the second half, which I think is fine. You have a guy who he's still a young player. He hasn't played all season as a first teamer. You're playing against a good defense in Nebraska. You're playing in a dogfight. You know that he, especially when he has the fumble early on in the second half, like he's turned it over twice. He probably should have turned it over 4 or 5 times to that point, realistically. Make it simpler on him. They did, and I thought that was the way to go. Don't ask him to do too much there. It's the same stuff that, people said about Miller Moss. Like, don't ask him to do too much. Play within his strengths. And I thought that Lincoln Riley played within Mailbag's strengths in that second half. And then, like we talked about before, like it really opened up the literal options for what SC could do on the zone reads and the jets, because no longer was it just jet or fake jet. Now it's jet, fake jet, quarterback power. It's fake jet, triple option. Like, you have all these different variants of it that really provide an extra wrinkle there. And the argument for starting Mailbag from, everybody on Twitter and message boards and everything was, well, he can run, he can open up the playbook like that. We did not see that in the first half. We saw it in the second half. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to run him on every play. You just have to keep the defense honest every now and then. Like we talked about in the CarCast, I just liked how the jet sweeps, it's like the entire game was setting up for the triple option jet sweep to essentially sort of win the game on that 4th and 1.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's I think that is the area where Jaden Mailbag, obviously he helps the offense with sort of a bigger arm that can maybe push the ball downfield. But what we saw in this game was that wasn't really what USC, that wasn't what ended up making the difference for USC.
Given his decision making, I don't know that that's the best solution.
I mean, yes, no, but my point is that he just objectively has a bigger arm than Miller Moss. So
right.
In theory, you can push the ball down the field, but like you said, like in this game, that wasn't what USC needed, or ultimately what made the difference for USC. It really was the way that his presence as a potential runner opened up opportunities, or what we always say is force defenders to make a decision, put them in a dilemma,
conflict,
in conflict. And those conflicts opened up things, not just for Mailbag to run, but Woody Marks and Zachariah Branch and screens and other sort of opportunities. So Jaden Mailbag he ends up rushing 5 times.
It's 4. There's a sack.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's 4.
So 4 runs
for 30 yards.
That's actually not that many. Like, that's not that much running.
It's not
from him.
It's not.
But that's enough running from him to open things up. And I think my frustration might be slightly that, like, obviously Jaden Mailbag, much, much better runner than Miller Moss. But I think you could have done some of the things that they were doing here with Mailbag, with Moss, and maybe help open up the things that we saw open up. But if the comfort level, if the the comfort level comes from the quarterback and how confident you are that the quarterback will run, or how confident the quarterback is in running the way that Mailbag would be, then that's enough reason to make the quarterback change, because it just felt like USC was getting more creative on offense.
Yeah.
And not from they're just going to have the quarterback run it all the time. Like,
right.
The way that they were handing the ball off to other guys felt different.
Yeah, and to what you said, I agree with you. I think a lot of the stuff that Mailbag was asked to do in this game from a quarterback running perspective, I think Miller could have done. I think Miller could have run that option.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that Miller gets like 10 or 11 yards the way that
Mailbag
does on some of those plays, but yeah.
No. And I don't think he scores that zone read, because the cut on that zone read touchdown was incredible.
Really nice, yeah.
But what I'm saying is Lincoln Riley just chose not to run with Miller, and Miller chose not to scramble ever.
Yeah.
And so when we did see Miller run, the 2-3 times that we saw him run, twice in that Wisconsin game, he delivered. He did what he was not a stone foot quarterback, but I think there was no confidence in being able to do that. And I think if there would have been more confidence in it, I think Miller could have been more competent in doing it. But if Mailbag gives you the confidence to actually call those plays, then that's certainly a benefit. Then it becomes the benefit of that outweighing the recklessness through the air and the gunslingerness. And to Mailbag's credit, or if anything, it's the discredit to Miller Moss. Like, Miller Moss was throwing all those interceptions without being the gunslinger, and that was at which point going to the gunslinger has even less risk at that point.
That was 100% my reasoning for making the quarterback switch.
Yeah,
it was, if you're going to have Miller Moss throw or commit multiple turnovers a game, which he did pretty much the whole way through except for Rutgers, then the turnover risk of Mailbag becomes a lot less
right, because you're already doing it.
Because if he's going to commit 2 turnovers a game, you already know that. Now, obviously, you don't want him to commit 2 turnovers a game, but you already had a quarterback doing it, so it was sort of a net zero plus, and then you gain the running and the potential more aggressiveness, whatever it was. But like, it did work out in this game. Did it work perfectly? No. Like, there were still areas where USC was sloppy. USC had penalties. They still ended up in a dogfight where they could have lost. They could have lost the game in the end if one or two things goes. Nebraska in this game comes out saying we're 1 play away. It's the same deal, and you don't want to be in that situation every week.
Right.
But it was against one of the better defenses that USC was going to face this year. It was a pretty strong performance for a guy who needed a half to clear out the cobwebs and to settle in. Yeah. And it makes you wonder, like, if obviously I don't necessarily want to play the, like, what would the season look like if they had started with Mailbag or whatever, because given what we saw from Mailbag,
I really don't think it's that much of a difference.
Well, that's the thing, is like, given what we saw from Mailbag in the first place, like, I don't know, maybe there are more interceptions or there are more fumbles or whatever it is, all those kinds of things. But
yeah,
if nothing else, the one thing I can say with some certainty is that if Mailbag had a few games of like previous experience and then come into the Nebraska game, I think USC probably wins the Nebraska game more comfortably.
Right.
But as it is, they win the game because they ultimately made more plays than the other team, which they have not done this season often enough.
Roger Dodger in the chat says that Mailbag throws a better screen pass. I agree in the sense of, like, he does have more zip there. I always thought that Caleb Williams was, this is going to sound weird, probably the best screen pass thrower I've ever seen. Because the number of times on, like, a little RPO, he did that thing where he just, like, drop his shoulder and sidearm it, and just throw a strike there, just get it out extremely quickly and make his decision and go. I think Mayava has that in the bag. Is he going to make the right decision on all those RPOs? Maybe, maybe not. I feel bad for talking about decision making so much, but like it's one game, and we need to sort of see that was just a bad quarter, first. That is half.
It could honestly be that Jade Mayava is just that dude in the first 2 quarters, and this is what you got to live with. But we don't know that yet.
Yeah, he's the I would say reverse Keaton Slovis, but no, that would make sense. Keaton Slovis was the 4th quarter guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Let's go to over under, shall we?
Yes.
So you're going over. I'm feeling bold. Give me that over.
I'm going under. I got to take an under here. I got 3 unders to take.
I'm going to do an under here.
All right, let's get to over under. Your first over under was Jaden Mayava, 24.5 sack adjusted rushing yards. I took the over. It was over. It was 30. He had 4 rushes, 4 quarterback keepers, whether it be scrambles or true keepers, 4 rushes, 13, 4, 11, and 2, the 2 being the 2-yard touchdown late in the 4th quarter. But over. Wasn't a lot, but the line was close. But, yeah, you got the over.
Yep. It was going to be one of those ones where you just one scramble or one keeper is the difference. But
at least my first over under was 1.5 Dylan Raiola interceptions. I thought about letting you have it. Until the last play of the game. It was he just had 1. 1.5 was the line, and it was probably looking stupid that I made it 1.5. But then I thought, maybe be a little greedy here. And Greedy Vance was like, sure, let's do it. So you took the under on the 1.5, and it was 2.
So just like Nebraska lost clearly because the refs didn't throw that pass interference in the end zone, I lost this over under because they didn't throw that pass interference in the end zone, is what you're telling me.
Come on, refs. What are you doing?
I'm just saying.
You're just ruining Alicia's season. Left and right.
I'm just saying.
Unbelievable. Your next over under was 33.5 USC rushing attempts. I took the over, did not get this right. It was under at 32. And Alicia, I got a bone to pick with the offensive line. Why couldn't they just not pass protect? A couple of sacks in there and the rushing attempts hit. Come on, what are we doing?
Another well set line, I think, and another sign that like you don't need to be running the ball 40 times a game,
right,
to feel like you had an effective and balanced rushing attack.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, SC was way closer to 50-50. And yes. I think 50-50 is perfectly fine. Yeah.
If you told me for an entire season that USC would end up with 35 passes and 32 rushes, I'd say yes, that's perfect.
I would say as long as the ratio is between 40 and 60 in any direction, it's acceptable to me.
Yeah.
Regardless, like in general. But 50-50, or close to 50-50, as it was, is even better. Let's talk about my next one, which was 5.5 tackles for loss for the Huskers. You took the over, Alicia. It was 5 under, just barely under. Another great line for that Michael guy.
Have to commend you, Michael.
I felt pretty good about this line early because in the first half it felt like Nebraska was really getting into the backfield a lot. And then I think USC's offensive line settled in.
Yep. And
those plays kind of stopped happening. So
you got a really, really close line here with your last one. You said 2.5 USC sacks. I said no. I'm taking the under. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say SC's going to get a bunch of sacks. They got 2, but not 3. So 2, the under hit for me. Elijah Hughes and Solomon Tuliapupu. Elijah Hughes' sack. We didn't talk about it in the CarCast. One of my favorite sacks of all time.
So great.
Because it looked like a video game glitch.
Yes.
Like the left tackle and the left guard They were on a different snap count or something.
But this is one of the reasons why I see people post clips from CFB 25 and go like, this is so unrealistic. Like, this can't happen in the game. And I'm watching and it's like the offensive lineman just sort of standing still and not like, it looks glitchy. And then I think like, yeah, but I watch college football games all the time. And I look at it and point as like, how does that happen? Like, what are you doing? So, realism.
Yeah. My last one was over under 0.5 USC pass plays of 40 plus yards. You took the over. At least it was over. There was one. It was the touchdown pass to Deuce Robinson for 48 yards. Wasn't 40 yards through the air, but it was 40 yards as you count them at catch and run, 48 yards, which means that all three of my lines, 1.5 to Illinois interceptions, 5.5 Nebraska tackles for loss, and 0.5 USC pass plays of 40 plus yards, all within a half yard. Another great moment for me here.
Hey, at least I got the over on this
Michael.
one.
You did. At
least I got the over.
Yeah. You went 2-4. I went 4-2. Record for the season, 35-25 for me, and 25-35 for you. Nobody went perfect 6-0 in the Rotbot over-under game here, but we have a three-way tie. Three-way tie going in to game 11 between Jensen SC 11, Scotty C, and Pickle. Jensen SC 11 and Scotty C both went 5-1 this week. Pickle fought hard, went 4-2, kept it even. All told, so they're at 40-20, the three of them. I don't want to toot my horn too much here. I'm not someone who toots my own horn much at all. But I'm only 5 back of them. And I just got to say, I'm playing a much harder game. I can't choose over-under on every single one because I set lines. I think it's a little impressive that I'm that close.
Don't toot your own horn too
I'm
much.
not. I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as you said with the predictions, we were all sort of in the mix. You were very close. You went 27-20 SC, and the final score was 28-20 for the Trojans. SC beats Nebraska. Nebraska came in as the underdog in yet another chance for them to get a bowl game win, or get a win to give them a bowl game, something they haven't done since the Barack Obama administration. It's been a long time. But Alicia, I think it leads perfectly to talking about Underdog Fantasy. My favorite fantasy app. Go there, play some daily fantasy. 5 million Americans are doing it across 33 states, including California. Has all the top leagues, all the teams, stars to choose from, your favorite USC football players. They're on there as with stat projections. This past week, Woody Marks, you were going to take the higher. You know you did. You know you were going to because like you're feeling good about Woody Marks and his ability to run the ball. Yeah, that higher would have been a great pick as you sort of draft your picks and go through and pick multiple stat projections higher or lower at 146 rushing yards. He was way higher what the stat projection was. Going forward on Wednesday, we'll talk about what I'm looking forward to for my picks for SC and UCLA. Maybe a little spoiler alert here. I think I'm going to take higher on a whim with Makai Lemon. No matter what, I haven't seen what the stat projection is. We'll talk about it Wednesday, but I'm already feeling higher.
You're ready for a bounce back game.
Yes. Makai Lemon, 2 catches, 15 yards this past week. Did have the biggest catch of the game. That weird juggle thing, bizarre thing that happened. But wasn't very productive. I think he's going to be productive against the Bruins on Saturday, but we'll talk about more of that on Wednesday. But you can download Underdog Fantasy right now and go play Stat projections for the NBA, for the NHL, for Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. You can pick, mix and match from different sports. Download the app today, Underdog Fantasy. Use the code Reign of Troy to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog. So download the app and use the code Reign of Troy to get up to $100 in bonus cash instantly. You must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates, including California. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncbgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. And in New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Alicia, it's time to get to the mailbag.
You've got mail.
All right, let's start. Couple of calls that we got. First one, we got to go to Dave the Lesser, our good pal from Orange County.
Troy Radio, this day from Orange County. We're almost at halftime now. And then, I know everybody's excited about the alternate uniforms. And in fact, I'm wearing my alternate uniform, number 55. It's a throwback from back when I went to school. Yes, I'm old. But it just makes me think back of my, time when I was a student, and then these 90s and 80s uniforms really just is reaffirming that I think the uniforms are bringing all these ridiculous, unnecessary personal foul penalties, just like the 90s. It's like really a throwback kind of day. Yeah, 14-14. I'm sure we'll lose by 2. Peace out.
So confident that, Dave. Great call as always, but SC held on. Our good friend Kenny in the chat formerly of Travel Age Thursdays, picked him up from the airport today. We were talking as after I picked him up from the airport, we're talking about the game, and he's like, "Didn't you feel like it was like some deja vu watching the same thing at the end?" I'm like, "Yeah, it did feel like every other game, but the only reason I felt a vague, slim bit of confidence for SC." Defensively on that last drive. I mean, SC's defense is great. I feel good about USC defense, but not on the last drives of games because we've seen it. But the 8 points, for whatever reason, it just felt like, well, they can't die here. Like they might get punched in the face and lose an arm, but they can't die here.
Yeah, I mean, you could give up a touchdown there, and how many times have we seen across college football or NFL teams give up that touchdown and then don't get the 2-point conversion? So you sort of had, and then even if they get the 2-point conversion, you still go to overtime, and then it's any number of, not that anyone wanted to experience overtime, and I wouldn't have liked USC's chances in overtime given the momentum and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I felt a little more zen.
Yeah. It helps the jerseys were there. The diamonds in the end zone.
Those beautiful end zones.
Yeah. My end zone hot take, I think, I want a combination of the two. Give me like a more modern lettering, like the more modern typeface, but the diamonds in the end zone, but I don't care for that inner stroke in the end zone. I never really cared for it. Take out the inner stroke.
All right.
Then I'll be down for it. Let's go to another call we got from a first-time caller.
Hey, guys. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I just wanted to say, I don't know if you guys mentioned this in the CarCast. I wasn't able to listen, but I don't know if you guys thought that there were any similarities between Mailbag's start today, his first at the Coliseum, and any similarities to that of Sam Darnold's first start at the Coliseum against Colorado in 2016. Not trying to draw any comparisons, and obviously completely different games to each of the season, but they felt like very similar to me, where in Darnold's game, there's a lot of the same things you guys had mentioned, that the ball had bounced back and forth, and it meant USC way most of the time. In that game, I think Darnold had a fumbled snap where he was able to recover it and go into the end zone. and he had another fumbled snap where he took the ball back like 20 yards and then was able to get a touchdown pass to Petit. And I don't know if you guys see any comparisons in that. Obviously, I think they're two very different players, and I think as far as teams go, both teams are very different in a sense, but maybe there's something about that number 14. I don't know. Maybe this is just too much of my, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but maybe it's just some of that. I don't know. I just need something to cope with, but it was a good win. I enjoyed how it went, and yeah, that's about all that I have to say.
Thanks for the call. Let us know your name next time because it's a great call. And yeah, I think there are a bunch of comparisons. The interesting thing for Darnold, you mentioned the Colorado game. Yes, I think the Colorado game, very similar. That is a game where Darnold had a throw where he just threw it up, fumbled, turned around and threw one up.
The fumble like dribbled to himself.
Yeah.
And then he throws it up to Petit, and Petit grabs it. Yeah, that was the first one. When he mentioned that, I was like, is that game? And I was like, yes, it is.
And then he fumbles at the goal line.
That game is also the absurd gravity-defying Adoree Jackson
pick
interception that like shouldn't happen, doesn't happen, is a once in a million opportunity for that to even be called an interception on the field and be a thing. Like USC did get very lucky in that game at times. And it was what on the CarCast, what we talked about was the unquantifiable thing that is it. And you can sort of it and luck could be 1-to-1.
Right.
But it felt like Sam Darnold had those vibes where things just bounced his way. And Jaden Mayava definitely had that working in his favor in this past game against Nebraska. But I think the other thing about that game that I find interesting is that makes it a great comparison is that game too was a game where USC the beginnings of an offense that became very explosive and very high scoring, where they still hadn't quite figured themselves out yet. They were still kind of prone to making a few mistakes and not sort of following through and settling for 21 points. And part of that was the growing pains with Darnold at times. So that could be, again, with Mayava, just a starter getting used to playing every down, every game, all of that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, we don't get, a whole second half of the season to see Mayava really grow into his own the way that we did with Darnold, but we still get to see what he does from here. Because in that game, there were 3 fumbles lost, 4 totals turnover overall for USC.
Yeah, I think the Colorado comparison is very good.
And Darnold lost 2 fumbles, by the way.
I am going to mention the 2016 Utah game, though. Because really, I think this game was a mixture of 3 games. The Utah game in 2016, that was a game in which Darnold showed a lot of flashes.
And
he's also turned the ball over a bunch, but it was his first start, and I think that he had some he had some house money in those turnovers, right? Like nobody was holding those turnovers against him. And I think that sort of the Mayava thing is sort of the same way, right? Like we all see that Mayava probably should have thrown like 2 more interceptions or whatever. But he got bounces to go his way. He won the game in the end. He didn't let those doom his day. He had the game clinching essentially, touchdown run, like to the point where like no one's going to look back at the pick 6 and like hold that pick 6 against him. You hope that he just learns from it. The same thing with Darnold in 2016 against Utah. SC lost that game, but like nobody was blaming Darnold for that loss. You just hope that he learned from those mistakes. The Colorado game you mentioned a few weeks later is ideally like another one of those games. The other one is the 2019 Matt Fink game against Utah, which is the Yellow Bowl. And to Jane Mayava's credit, like, I think there was really only like 2 YOLO ball plays that were big gains for SC, but they were probably the two of the 3 passes from Mayava that you're going to remember, which is the prayer to Deuce Robinson, which is extremely YOLO, and then the Kyron Hudson touchdown, which was extremely YOLO because that never should have been thrown in the first place.
Well, you can throw that one to Hudson. You just have to put it where only Hudson. Like, you have to put it so far out that either Kyron makes the play,
or it's out of bounds.
The issue with that is just he doesn't put enough air under it. He doesn't get it far enough out.
When I'm saying he shouldn't have thrown it, it's more so like it was so easily going to get picked the way that it was thrown. Yeah. But yeah, I think he has a lot of Darnold in him. I don't think it'd be fair to compare him to Darnold. Certainly not yet. But there's a lot of Darnold-y things. And I think people were talking about it on our Discord, like during the game, that it felt a little like Darnold. I think you could say that is Mayava is that Samoan for Darnold? It could be.
It could be.
It could be Samoan or Hawaiian. He's a Samoan by descent, but from Hawaii, but is not Hawaiian. And I know that there's a. You don't want to call someone Hawaiian if they're not actually Hawaiian because there's a.
But he is Hawaiian because he's from Hawaii in the way that we are Californian.
Yes, but that's not Hawaiian.
But he's culturally, he's ethnically Samoan.
Yes, don't call Tua Hawaiian. He's not Hawaiian. No. He's from Hawaii.
This is why it just, Polynesian.
Labels matter?
Polynesian is my go-to because I don't know necessarily. It's a catch-all.
There you go.
Yeah. Feel safe.
Yeah. All right. Email from Ron. Here's my old man yells at cloud moment. I just watched Easton Mascarenas Arnold perform 3 different celebrations on tackles for loss and then proceed to get burned on a 3rd down following the defense giving up a long touchdown play. This is so typical of recent Trojan teams, in my view, celebrating individual plays so much more than I've ever seen while having less team success. Just look at the USC football posts before the game. I couldn't care less what the player's drip was. I prefer when they wore matching tracksuits the way a team, in all caps, does. I can't imagine Troy Polamalu or Matt Grudegood pretending to shoot a bow and arrow after a tackle, or Kareem Kelly gesturing for a 1st down after a 2-yard catch. Like I said, old man yells at cloud. If being 35 makes me old. Ron from Northridge. Ron, as a fellow 35-year-old who lives in the Valley, yeah, it's not old. It's not old.
But it's not old, but it is an old man yells at cloud moment.
I thoroughly enjoy the self-awareness here.
And this is the thing. It's like, as we all get older, we're not old yet, but we are getting older. We have to accept that, like, the kids, it's a natural progression to turning into, like, kids these days. For instance, Michael and I have spent large swaths of the last 7 days talking about how bad the haircuts are on these Gen Z. These Gen Z haircuts.
Gen Z barber TikTok I don't understand.
The fashion and the hair.
Bro, how did you hear about me? Bro, I saw you on TikTok, bro. Okay, bro, what can I do for you, bro? Bro, first of all, the guy has like a perfectly fine haircut. It's like a long hair that looks like totally fine for a guy. Like it's good looking hair, right? He's got nice salad, right? As the hockey guys would say. He's like, bro, I saw this thing on Instagram and I'm like, can you do this for me, bro? And then, all right, bro, I got you. We're going to do a burst fade up tight, low down, whatever bullshit. All right, bro. And then you got to look in the camera as the camera spins around. And then all of a sudden, the reveal. And he's got this horrific looking like mullet with this, like the beard is so lined up that it looks fake. And all the comments are like, oh, bro saved bro's life. It's like, this dude looks terrible. What are we talking about? He looks utterly terrible.
And yes, those haircuts, what I'm learning is that the burst fade is just a bad haircut. Don't do it. But it's not for me.
Some people can pull it off.
It's not, yeah, but most of these kids can't. But also, we grew up in a time where frosted tips were all the rage, and they didn't seem that out of place to us then. And now we look at frosted tips and go like, "Oh my God, that looks terrible." So, it's a whole thing. It's a whole rite of passage to be like kids these days. And I think that when you're looking at players celebrating after plays, it's just like you gotta just let it like flow off of you. Just no, I don't like it. Let it flow off, because everybody's doing this. Isn't a USC thing. Every single team out there, every single kid out there is doing these things. They're reacting. Also, like, I grew up at a time in the circa 2007 2008 where the flexing thing was an after any tackle or whatever event. So like guys have always been doing this. We're probably just noticing it more. It's probably just more out there. The drip stuff is all because professional athletes started doing like fashion walks before games, and now everybody else thinks it's cool. So it's just all a trickle down from what the pros are doing. And so again, yes, it's old man yells at cloud. Being self-aware is good about that. But what I will say is none of that, not one iota of that, is contributing to whether or not USC wins or loses a game. That's all I want. Like, we need to just start from that point. Yeah, matching tracksuits doesn't make USC, 11 and 10-0 right now. That's just not how it works. It just is.
But I get it. As someone who thoroughly thinks that a player's value is tied up into whether they're wearing an F7, a Vengeance, a Visus 02, or a Speed Flex. I get it. I totally get it. Everyone knows that the answer is Visus are trash. Tom,
sorry, I just want to highlight the comment from Kaylee in the chat. Mm-hmm. Hawaiian here, just some food for thought. The name Maiava is associated with a few Samoan athletes, but in terms of it being Hawaiian, Polynesian, a Hawaiian or Polynesian name, there is no V in the Hawaiian language. So that would be our tip-off that he's not Hawaiian in terms of the Hawaiian people, right? Yeah, that's really fascinating, and good to know, because that's something that you and I always pick up with the Polynesian players. You have to sort of learn how do you pronounce the different names if they're Samoan or Tongan or whatever, like the Tonga Vailoa, that like NG where there is no N, but you have to add it there because that's the way it is in Samoan, right? Tonga Vailoa is Samoan. Mm-hmm. So it's not Tagovailoa, it's Tonga Vailoa, all that. Like those kinds of things are all, they're all fascinating to me. And they are the things that help us identify that somebody is Samoan versus Tongan versus Hawaiian or whatever. So I didn't know that thing about I didn't know about the V. So that's very interesting.
The V thing makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And yeah, there's a lot of Hawaiian names that can sound like there's a V, but not necessarily, like the word Hawaii, for instance. But this reminds me of a TikTok that I saw. I wish I knew who the guy who did this, because it was very interesting. And I'm probably going to butcher this, but hear me out. It was this guy talking about this joke that Samoans say that the Hawaiian king with the really long name that starts with a K. That I don't even want to try.
I'm not even going to try.
That like the joke is that like he was actually Samoan, and so like this guy was like talking about like the origins of that joke, and basically he was saying that like, okay, ancestrally, the Hawaiian people, the Hawaiians as a people, they would have been in Samoa first and come over. But like, it's not true in the sense of like, they've been in Hawaii for so long and they've, had alterations to the language and created their own culture and all that stuff. So like what embodies being Hawaiian is not what embodies being Samoan.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's, there's different, different peoples within the Polynesian people, which is awesome.
Well, and as Kaylee said, like there's a lot of mixture of ethnicities. One of my sisters-in-law is she's from Hawaii. Her family is they've got like Filipino on one side, but they're Polynesian.
Yeah.
So and Native American as well. So they sort of again are one of those, like, they're very mixed, but they're from Hawaii. They are Hawaiian. Like culturally, they are Hawaiian. It's actually a fascinating region in terms of those kinds of things, because there is a lot of not the distinctions are not always like very easy to draw out.
Yeah, for sure. And next week on Reign of Anthropology, we're gonna really get into North Sentinel Island. And how it's everybody's favorite island.
But as Kaylee said, and I just want to highlight this, like something that we haven't talked about, which is probably just because this is, I remember when Mark Sanchez became USC's quarterback, it was having the first Mexican quarterback, first Hispanic quarterback. It was kind of cool because it's just, it's not necessarily a common thing that we'd seen very much.
Caleb Williams, first black quarterback of our lifetime.
That's right. That's pretty crazy. Like, it is low key crazy, especially because USC was so close to having to come to USC and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's kind of wild that it took this long for a Polynesian quarterback to start at USC. So like that's a really cool moment, and I know it was really important over in Hawaii and in a lot of other places to like see that. So it actually was kind of like a super cool thing that we maybe overlooked a little bit, because there's a ton to talk about when it comes to Miami
and the relationship to Kaluka, which is awesome.
Yes.
All right, email from Tom. Hi guys, I was fortunate enough to go to the game today. And while I get the apathy, the stadium felt 50-50 with Huskers and Trojan fans. Honestly, I almost felt embarrassed for the program, but in any case, it was great being back in LA to catch a game with friends. Fight on, Tom, in the Cayman Islands. True homecoming for Tom here. There's a million Nebraska fans. They travel more than anybody else in the country. Them, BYU, and Notre Dame, I would say. But they are more impressive in that they are literally traveling from Nebraska when they come, whereas BYU and Notre Dame just have people everywhere, right? Like, because of their different
national fan bases,
religions. And there's the phrase is Husker home game for a reason. They travel. Certainly doesn't help that SC has not had the greatest year. It also doesn't help that this was the first Big Ten game for SC in Nebraska, which means that all those Nebraska fans probably, at least a big portion of them, probably scheduled this immediately as soon as they saw it.
Yeah.
And if you are from Nebraska and you're a transplant in LA,
which there are plenty,
like this would be an automatic go-to, right?
Yeah. I remember at the time when USC last played Nebraska at the Coliseum,
there were a million there.
There were a million there. Yeah. So even if USC was not having attendance issues, like they would have shown out. But having said that, again, I no longer have any interest in defending the attendance stuff with USC, with Los Angeles, with all of that kind of stuff. It is embarrassing for the program that USC can't get more people into the Coliseum consistently, regularly, also on time. USC fans on time.
We don't want to lecture people,
I know, but I am get into the stadium 2 hours before when we went to the Washington game. We were there 2 hours before the game started.
That is weirdo energy. I get that.
Anxious. I am neurotic. It is like I get it. We can't all be the people who go in 2 hours beforehand.
Sure,
I get it. Fine, but also
maybe you should embrace being a weirdo.
For the love of God, do we need to start telling USC do what we do with my brother, who is consistently late? We tell him the thing is starting at 8:00. It's really starting the thing is starting at 6 o'clock. It's really starting at 7. We have no intention of doing anything until 7. But we tell Jose it's 6 o'clock. So then we know that he'll actually get there on time.
Well,
do we need to tell USC fans? Like, no, the Notre Dame game, which we don't have a time for because it's in a 6-day window, but the Notre Dame game, it's not that it's going to start at 4 o'clock, guys. It's going to start at 3:30. If we tell you it's going to be starting at 3:30.
That kind of happens. Because, like, TV time means 4:45.
Well, USC fans apparently think that any game time actually starts 30 minutes later because that's when the Coliseum fills up.
Okay. I don't think people really need to be there an hour before the game. But genuinely, I do not understand not wanting to be in your seats for Conquest. I don't understand. Like, how are you not in your seat for Conquest at the beginning of the game? Like
I want to know
that to
what
me
it's
as a
like.
kid is too important of a moment not to be there.
I want to know what it is like to live life with that low of a level of anxiety. That is what I would like to know. Because
the people who get to an airport
2 different anti-anxiety medications.
12 minutes before boarding?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Like, I'm still not at that level and I'm medicated. So, like, who are these people who are not concerned about whether or not they miss kickoff?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, how are you not having a meltdown trying to get to your seat? I know that there are some people out there who are having a meltdown trying to get to their seat because I've been there, because I've miscalculated an entry into a stadium. Hello, Santa Clara. But also that was terrible stadium management and whatever. But either way, I don't get it. It's people are living a life that is totally different from mine. That's all I'll say.
I still want to know how much anxiety medication are the people who have their dogs off leash. How much are they taking?
Yeah.
I could never get there. Never in a million years could get. I could trust Jesse. And I still wouldn't. I'd be terrified. All right. Chat message from Murdy. With what we've seen from Mayava, what is your confidence level to beat UCLA and Notre Dame? Probably a split, but we play Notre Dame tough at home. I think you said it perfectly right there.
Yes, I think that USC should expect to beat UCLA. The advanced metrics say that USC should beat UCLA relatively comfortable. I think they're like a 7-point favorite, 7-8 touchdown favorite, whatever it is. My expectation is that because USC has played literally everybody close, that the Notre Dame game will be no exception to that.
Mm-hmm.
The UCLA game will also be no exception to that. So take that for what it's worth. I just think that USC probably maybe beats them.
Yeah. SC beats Manual Arts by no more than 8.
Yeah. So the Notre Dame game is going to be fascinating, though, because I do think that game is destined to be close. Even if this team wasn't this team, more often than not, like that's just the way that like the Notre Dame game tends to be pretty competitive one way or another, at least for most of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then again, you run into the one bounce of the ball this way or that way. You run into luck dictating results.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe USC has a chance to win that game. I'm not going to predict that, but maybe they do.
Yeah. We'll see. We will see. All right. Last question in the chat from Fight on Natties. I have a question. Are these two married or what? Are they a couple? Who? No, I've never seen this woman. I have no idea who she is. I think she won a contest to be on the show.
I did. I won a contest to be on the show. Yeah. And we both happen to have. We just so happens that we both have a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And
name the same thing, which is just weird.
Each of these dogs is named Jesse, and each of these happen to be Border Collie.
Yeah. Mine has blue eyes, though.
Yeah. I like West Texas Mike's explanation.
They're neighbors.
We're neighbors who found out we were cheering for USC at the same time. They both barged out of their apartments and yelled at each other, "Will you pipe down? I'm trying to watch USC." And then they realized they were both USC fans and fell in love. Let's write a rom-com, West Texas Mike. Let's do it. Let's go.
To be fair, I do. There's sometimes I wonder if we were ever in a class together at SC. I don't think so. I doubt it. But there was a world in which it could have happened.
What?
Like
It would have had to be.
Or
like
could you imagine if we walked past each other, like in that hellhole that is WPH?
We probably did at some point walk past each other in one of those, in like WPH or GFS or one of those sort of more general buildings.
SGM.
Do you think we were ever at the student union, the temporary one in the parking lot? You think we were ever there at the same time and eating? Did you ever go there?
I can confirm no, because I was a transfer student and went to El Camino. Go Warriors. When I got on campus, the tutor center was already done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you were there for all three, right?
I was there.
You would have been there. Had the old student union.
The old student union was there, and then they tore it down, and they had the parking lot temporary tent thingamajig thing.
So
and
they're just building it the whole time. That's. All right, that's gonna wrap it up. We'll be back Wednesday with a special guest. You probably heard of him. His name is Jake. From the West Bruin Show. He'll be here Wednesday. I will be chatting with him and previewing SC and University of California Southern Branch on Wednesday. SC and UCLA meeting at the Rose Bowl at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. That'll be Saturday. So
Eastern time, 7:30.
Because it sounds worse. It sounds worse.
It sounds very late. We apologize to the East Coast contingent. Yeah.
All right, we've gone on too long. We will see you guys next time.
See ya.
See ya.